Say thank you very much for joining us this evening. On behalf of Council, there was some concern that we might be at or over capacity of the room. I understand from staff that we're at capacity for this room, and we appreciate your interest in the topic this evening, so thank you very much. I do see that we have quorum, and I call this special meeting to order. I do want to acknowledge and pass along regrets from Councillor Accursi. He unfortunately couldn't make it here this evening. It was something that he had this evening and couldn't be here, so he will not be joining us. But he did say to please go ahead with the meeting. The first item of business is approval of the agenda, and it has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that the agenda for the November 15th, 2017 special meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is, any conflicts of interest that any members of Council may have. Do any members have any conflicts?
No, Mr. Mayor.
There are none. Okay, thank you very much. We're here to discuss and find out more information about very serious topics, and we know that there's a lot of interest in the community about this. There are a lot of people here, and I appreciate how respectful you've been thus far, and I would hope, on behalf of Council and I would hope that that respect will continue. We will now start with our presentation. We have Mr. DeLorenzo here from Daniel and Partners, who's going to, Mr. DeLorenzo, I don't know if you want to come to the podium and present to us about breach of confidentiality and information about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of Council. Normally, when I appear before you, it's in a confidential setting in which I'm giving you legal advice. I'm not here to do that today. Today, I just want to provide you with information. I want to provide the public with information regarding the legislative directives that municipal councils are given by the province with respect to confidentiality. As a general proposition, all business conducted by council is to be in public. There are rare exceptions, specifically enumerated in the Municipal Act, in which council can receive information and give directions in camera. Provincial governments have determined that in certain circumstances, the goals of openness and transparency are outweighed by the potential harm that could be caused to the municipality or to an individual person if time-sensitive information is released inappropriately or too early in the process. It's public knowledge that on September 5th, 2017, there was an in-camera meeting. That in-camera meeting was, quote, to consider personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and advice that was subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. That was the intent of the in-camera meeting, and it's one of the specifically enumerated headings under the Municipal Act. Now, consistent with those provincial objectives, the contents of in-camera meetings are to be kept confidential, and that's provided for in the Municipal Act, in your own Code of Conduct, in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, all of which is applicable. Now, subsequent to the meeting, I understand on October 6th, Town announced that they had retained KPMG to conduct a third-party audit of certain aspects of town records. And I understand and hope this report is coming forward soon. However, there has been a number of media reports attributing statements to Councillor Junkin referring to this in-camera meeting. Now, any councillors, him or anyone else, that breach the confidentiality of an in-camera meeting would be subject to discipline under your Code of Conduct. A possible prosecution under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and a potential breach of trust charge under the Criminal Code. Now, if these statements attributed to Councillor Junkin are correct, his resignation has essentially allowed him to not go through the investigation and the censures that this council could give them. He's just avoided that by resigning. However, you have not. You are still here. You're still doing the work of the town, and you're still subject to those confidentiality provisions. And it's important that certain confidentiality provisions be maintained. And let me just give you a complete hypothetical. If any one of you are involved in litigation, and I speak to you about it, and the information that I have, and the discussions we have, and our tactics are all out there open to the other side, you can imagine how prejudicial that could be to your case. And that's exactly why this type of confidentiality is protected by the by this government and by the provincial government. Now, there has been much speculation, gossip, misleading, inaccurate, or incomplete reports as a result of Councillor Junkin's alleged actions and disclosures. I heard this today, and when I prepared my notes, I thought the same thing. I understand that members of council feel their hands are tied in responding to these allegations. I further understand that it's sometimes very difficult not to take the bait and respond to something that you know may be inaccurate or incomplete because you're bound by your code of conduct and the oath that you took. I encourage members of council to maintain this restraint, protect the confidentiality of that meeting, and continue to honor their obligations. Once an audit has been completed, which I understand has been ordered, and further financial information is provided by your new treasurer in an open and public forum, I'm confident council will then have the opportunity to respond to any questions, answer any accusations, and provide them with the facts open to the public. Now, when I think about this, I've been doing municipal work for many years, and I know municipal finances are very complex. It's not just a simple P&L statement. It reminds me somewhat of a jigsaw puzzle, where every piece touches every other piece, and unless you can see the whole picture, you're just responding to things that you really don't have a concept of because you don't see the whole picture. And that's why, rather than responding to headlines, gossip, whatever else is thrown out there, in my submission, it's much more prudent that we get an entire picture, get the puzzle put together, and put before the public, which I anticipate is going to be happening very shortly. And once the picture is out there and the puzzle is together, then we can deal with all of these allegations and innuendo intelligently and with the true facts. Subject to any questions you have, Mr. Mayor or Council, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeLorenzo, for your very comprehensive presentation. Do members of council have any questions, general questions for clarity? No. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Rybiak. Be it resolved that the verbal presentation from Don DeLorenzo, Daniel and Partners, LLP, dated November 15th, 2017, be received. Any further discussion about that, Councillor Papp? Thank you, Mr. DeLorenzo, if you want to.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, do you have a question?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. DeLorenzo, if you could just briefly, and I didn't have a chance to talk to you before, what, if any, are the latitudes that we may or may not have with respect to our responsibility and accountability with respect to confidentiality?
sorry, not sure I understand what you're asking.
Do we have any discretion that if we so wish, I'll take myself, for example, and if I wish to disclose, I do information that belongs to this council, I do it at my own peril.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm not trying to put words because I want that to be understood. And I say that because I've always understood that since I've sat on this council for 15 years.
Yes, and any member of council that breaches a confidentiality is subject to, number one, your own code of conduct.
Right.
Okay? And there would be an investigation, and it could be censure for that. If it has to do with personal information of an identifiable person,
Right.
That's a provincial offense, okay, that you could be charged with. And if it has to do with a breach of trust, that is a criminal matter that could be investigated by the police and a breach of trust charge laid. And that applies to any individual.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you for your response.
Thank you. Any others? I have a question, and I think you touched on it, but I do want to get it out. Now that confidentiality has been broken, and it may be confused information, why can't we talk about it? If you can just underscore that, please.
Well, firstly, I think that my mother told me 2 wrongs don't make a right. You are still bound by that same confidentiality. And the reason for the confidentiality is to protect the municipality in potential litigation. So by breaching the confidentiality, you're ignoring your responsibility to protect the municipality in potential litigation. And my hypothetical is a perfect example of why you should not breach confidentiality just because somebody else did.
Thank you. Anything else? So I'm going to call the question to receive. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeLorenzo.
Thank you.
Now we move to the next portion of the meeting, which is next steps. And I imagine that Mr. DeLorenzo made some, so if I can get the ball rolling on this, Mr. DeLorenzo made some reference to information coming out, and I think maybe either the treasurer or the CAO has information about that, the date, the timing, those kind of things. So I don't know who's able to answer that, the financial information. I mean, because of the information in the paper, the allegations, folks are here because they want to know about the finances, Mr. CAO. So can you please tell us when we're all getting that information, and talk about the KPMG audit that was put forward on October 2nd?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, our understanding is the KPMG audit will be presented on November 29th. We're expecting that the auditors have confirmed that is the date that will be received. Staff is also working on a report that will be a complement to that, and we're expecting that will be received and presented to council in around the 29th of November.
Okay. I think we need a larger venue than this for that. And I wonder if any members of council have any other questions about that? Why not sooner?
Right.
Mr. CAO?
There's the auditors are working through the information. I can't answer on their behalf. That's the date that they said they would complete their work, and that's the date that we've accepted to receive it. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rybiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I take the point with regard to the KPMG audit that we asked for. That's the audit into parkland dedication and
Yes.
development charges. I think there's a general interest with regard to the finances of the town. Is there any thought about giving a review of where we are?
I'm going to turn over to the treasurer. Madam Treasurer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on November 29th, I will give an update of the current state of the town's finances as well. So I'll do a presentation after the auditors provide their presentation.
Okay.
And then anyone can ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. I take it that will be a council meeting?
Yes. The intention, I think, is that it will be a special council meeting, that we'll hold it in as large a venue as possible. I'm going to call on the treasurer because I did ask her some questions about that particular audit and that information coming out, and in terms of what the auditors I haven't talked to the auditor, I don't, or anything like that.
Yeah,
So I just
sure.
want to talk to the treasurer, ask the treasurer about what the auditor is suggesting on how that information comes out, and what's your information, how that's going to come out.
Mr. Mayor, in speaking to the auditors, what they're going to do is they're going to come here on the 29th and present the audit findings. And after that, the audit report will be released publicly for the public to review it. They will come back, council will have a chance to receive it. I will do a presentation just to talk about, where we're at with the finances. And the auditors want to give the public, a chance to review it and look it over. And they will come back, in 2 weeks' time after that report's been issued to answer any questions. That way, people have a chance to read it, digest it, review it, and then also, have a chance to talk to the auditors. We just think there'll be a lot of information happening that night that I think people need a chance just to look at it, as well as council as well, to look at the information and come back with any questions. And they were agreeable to that.
Okay, great, thank you.
It's good. So there will be an opportunity for public input and discussion, but 2 weeks after the 29th, after the report has been received, and we all have a chance to digest it.
That's correct, and I think...
1 or 2 weeks, we'll establish the date.
Good.
And that way people have a chance, the public has a chance to read it, and so does council.
So it sounds like that report will be available
Yes.
when the auditor gives us the report, and council will receive it at the same time.
Good. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Papp, I saw you, did you
No,
have a question?
I think my question was answered as far as the process and how that will take place. So presentation on the 29th, distribution, chance for the general public and ourselves to review, and then to take the next steps on where we want to proceed with the audit results, right? And remedies, whatever they may be. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Mr. CAO, there's questions in the community and many allegations. Are you aware of any fraud? That's what you want to know, right?
I will say for the record, in public, there is no evidence of fraud that has taken place by any current or previous employee of the municipality of the town of Pelham. Definitively none. And the audit, I'm sure, will support that statement. I will say that again, there is no evidence of fraud, period.
Thank you. Please, everybody. Mr. CAO, other questions in the community is that there's money missing.
No, Mr. Mayor, there is no money missing. The municipality knows and can account for every nickel that it has. Again, that will be presented as part of the audit on the 29th. So, again, I will say definitively there is no money missing from the town of Pelham.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Those were some key questions. I know that people were coming in. Unless there's any other questions from members of council or statements, what's going to be happening now, as you know, we're going to be getting, somebody's turning the lights off there, if you don't mind. No problem, thank you. We will be getting complete and accurate information on the 29th. We will be getting the audit from KPMG with the response. The new treasurer will be presenting financial information about the town, and council will look at it, and the public will receive it at the same time. And as the treasurer said, please, ladies and gentlemen, please.
We're all interested in the audit.
There's audit A and audit B.
Please.
No, you please. You report
Ladies and gentlemen.
to us. We don't report to you.
Ladies and
You're out of order.
From the summer.
It's a simple question. It's not that difficult.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, you've been very, very good, and in terms of being respectful, and as our lawyer as our lawyer indicated, I'm not able to answer this question at this time.
You can if you want to.
No, we can't.
Why can't you answer the
I
question?
have no problem in answering the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, if someone came up to me and told me something about Bill. And I didn't know it was true or not. Would I say the same thing to the next person on the street? Or, ladies and gentlemen, I did not want to say anything until I had
Asking you about an audit.
all the facts. Councillor?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. Is it not the case that the audit that people are referring to is in fact part and parcel of the in-camera meeting that we had on September 5th and about which we have been counseled not to speak? And I may be going a
I'm going to
little
ask
far.
Mr. DeLorenzo.
Finances are not included in an in-camera meeting. As per your Municipal Act of 2001, finances are not private, not in-camera
Thank you.
meetings. Nancy Lozado.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will know these facts in 2 weeks. Staff are preparing the report. The auditor is investigating. I wonder if the treasurer can add to the information regarding the email address that the auditor, Madam Treasurer?
So the auditors received quite a few emails from the public, which is what we wanted. And so this is why it's taken a little bit longer to complete the audit, is they're trying to address all of the questions that were received beyond the scope of what we had in the audit.
Thank you.
I didn't say that.
So I think we've answered those questions.
Mr. Mayor, we'll get the council a mulberry bush for Christmas. You can go round
Thank
and
you very
round
much.
and round it.
So we know that there's concerns in the community. That's why we've called the special meeting. We're going to hear from it. And you heard why we were counseled by our lawyer. Councillors and I are more committed than ever to respect our responsibility, and we're going to be doing that. So you're going to be getting additional information, and as our lawyer counseled us, we cannot provide that information at this time. It's been moved by Councillor Rybiak, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Not at this meeting. Thank you for the question. There will be time for questions when there's complete information.
And why can't we ask at this meeting, sir? What's the reason?
Cut.
Procedural bylaws.
Give us the reason why we can't ask the question, sir. That's all we're asking. Why not?
Thank you. Thank you.
Why not, sir? You haven't asked.
Would you please let me answer the question?
Well, so far, all you said is thank you, and that's not an answer.
Call the adjournment.
The answer to the question is, it's not in the procedure bylaw. Second, we don't have all the facts. And third, we would like you to consider all the facts and then ask the questions, and that will
Haven't
come.
even asked the question.
This-
You don't know what we're going to ask.
I'd be pleased to
He can't
chat with
answer
you
the
outside.
question that you haven't asked
Thank
it
you
yet
very
because
much.
of this. But we're not
It's
going to answer
been-
what you're going to ask us because we don't know what
Call
it
the
is, but we're not
adjournment,
going to
Mr.
answer
Mayor.
it.
Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved that the special meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for November 20th, 2017, 6:30. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.